Good morning. Thank you for being here. So I'm going to share my screen to start the presentation, if that is okay. Well, first of all, I'm Monica Sosa. I'm a pharmaceutical engineer, and I'm glad to be here with you in this morning. I'm going to share the agenda so we can see the points and don't lose in this topic. Just give me a minute because I don't know why the slides are going on. Give me 1 minute, so sorry. Okay, so first of all, we're going to see COFEPRIS and regulatory framework. Then drug classification in Mexico, content of the dossier, registration process, requirements for medicine approval extension, COFEPRIS guidelines, and registration at COFEPRIS. So let's start with the general view of the Federal Commissioner. Let's remind that we have a change of government and our actual president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, they have changed the commissioners 2 times. So they have a different side of view. The actual commissioner, Alejandro Svarch, and the new commissioner of authorization are the ones who give the new parameters to review and give the medicine registration approvals. Because all of the pandemic issues, COFEPRIS has only worked for a year on topic to help with COVID-19, like PCR tests, medical devices, medicines, and the vaccines. This provoked a considerable delay of the procedures that are barely being attended, to which is why a new program called DigiPris was created, where it has ID trackers and can consult the registration status from anywhere part in the world. Right now, there is an effort on digitalization, all the registration submissions, so the pharmaceutical companies can have better times of approval. So this is an important part because this new era of COFEPRIS, we have they want to digitalize the registration process, but they have a challenge because they need a new system and it's a little bit complicated. So I want to explain the regulatory framework because it's important to know where the rules for the dossier has been made. So we have a pyramid that take us from the most general bibliography to the most important and specific norm for each product. It's important to learn about the sanitary regulation to know what documents may be equivalent or why some information is being requested. First, we have the Constitution of Mexico City of the United States. Then we have the Mexican regulations, General Health Law, Pharmacopeia, Regulation of Health Supplies, and the Federal Law of Administrative Process. What is medicine in Mexico? Because in some parts of the world, we have several changes. So it's important to know what is medicine in Mexico. Any substance or mixture of substance of natural or synthetic origin that has a therapeutic, preventive, or rehabilitative effect. This is very important because if you have a medical device that has a therapeutic, preventive, or anything that is in a pharmaceutical form, it's going to be a medicine, even if in your country is considered in a medical device. That is important to identify by the pharmacologic activity, physical, chemical, and biological characteristics. So medicines and COFEPRIS. We have two forms to see what COFEPRIS sees in the medicines. We have allopathic medicines and new molecules. So in the first of allopathic medicines, we have the biotechnical medications, herbal medicines, vitamin medicines, and homeopathic medicines. So this is important to know which classifications your product is going to be. Also, because in different countries, you have another classification, but this is what COFEPRIS applies. So I want to give you like the formula, what is the difference between these four classifications. So first, the allopathic medicines, we have the homeopathic. So if any substance, the difference is that this any substance or mixture or natural or synthetic, but it has to be in accordance with the manufacturing procedures described in the homeopathic pharmacopoeia. It's not like another drug that has to be with the pharmacopoeia. Herbal medicine, it has to be with products that made with plant material or any derivative. And biotechnical drug is any substance that has been produced by molecular biotechnology. And a biosimilar drug is non-innovative biotech drugs. So several clients ask us, how is the regulation of the new registries of allopathic medicines in Mexico? We have three parts of the dossier. First of all is the legal documentation, then the scientific documentation that is related to safety and efficacy, then technical documentation relating to the quality of the product. So this technical documentation tells us about the product and the quality with which it will be manufactured, and it will be not possible to change suppliers unless COFEPRIS is notified using a technical modification. We have a lot of cases that the manufacturer or someone in the supply chain doesn't give you the material, the original material. That's why it's important to have all the certificates in each load. So I'm going to present now the checklist of the information that you have to present to COFEPRIS and a classification that I have mentioned before. So first of all, we have the request form. You cannot change anything about the form, and you have to see in the page of COFEPRIS which numbers you have to write. Then is the right statement that I'm going to show you on the last slide, which one are the prices. Then the sanitary license that your country approves that you can make medicines, health responsible notice, operation notice, the label project, instructive, extensive and resume of PPI, GMP of drug and diluent, free sale certificate, and if it's a new molecule, you have to have the conclusion of the meeting of the committee of the new molecules. This is a remark that we want to give you because I know that COFEPRIS published that you don't have to submit the information in English, but this is not totally true because not all the dictaminators in COFEPRIS have the level of English to understand the documents and the level of the English that you need to prevent the delay, or maybe you can have a prevention because the dictaminator doesn't understand the information that you are submitting. So also we must consider the time in which all the apostille documents will be available for submission, and obviously check if the the legal documents are valid. In case of a new molecular submission, we have to also integrate the conclusion letter of the new molecules committee. Don't forget this because sometimes the pharmaceutical industry thinks if you have the interview with the committee, but you have to wait for the inform to submit in the dossier. In Mexico, we have very specific law regarding contents, labels, and indications. Recently, there has to be a differentiation on public and private sectors sale expressed on the primary and secondary package of the medicine. Okay, then let's continue to the quality information. We have manufacturing information, how you're going to make this medicine, the properties, the characterization, physical, chemical characteristic, monograph, specs, analytical methods, and validation, analytical certificates, and stability study. Remember that this information has to be actual. You cannot use information that it has to be since 1990. It has to be at least 2 years ago. That's my advice. All this information must be up to date because we have a lot of cases in which the analytical methods and stability are expired or do not correspond to the manufacturer's ingredients. So please take extra attention to this type of information to prevent any preventions of the authority. Now, the other part of the dossier is the finished product. So we have to submit this information that is crucial, and we can say that is important module of information in the dossier. So take extra attention to the analytic validations and who makes them. All the information has to contain the protocols. This is very important because some industry, like in your country or FDA, if you enter only the certificates, it's okay, but in Mexico, you have to submit the protocols or the evidence, how they made the traceability of the process to make sure the manufacturing and validation flow chart is adequate to the process and controls critical stages and intermediate products. In fact, most of the preventions that have COFEPRIS are those regarding the labeling, text, contents, the ingredients charts, and indications have to be very well analyzed. So you have to see the stability, study protocol, conclusions, description, capacity of the primary and secondary container, packagings, material control information, description and capacity of attached devices, stability under degradation, and certificate suitability. And these remarks that we want to say is that you have to put in these numbers to submit the dossier. This is an advice because it's very important the way that you present to the dictaminator, because maybe he's having a bad day and he's not in the mood to review the dossier like we want it. But if you made this process to the 1 to the 12, you're going to achieve a great opportunity with the dictaminator, that he understands what are you saying. And take extra attention to the analytical validations and who makes them. They have to contain the protocols. Also, packaging has to be adequate to the labeling normativity. Now, for the information on preclinical studies, this is very important that you submit summary, pharmacodynamic, clinical summary, introduction with reference, summary pharmacodynamics, pharmacokinetic summary. Why is this important? Because unfortunately, in our country, we don't have a lot of clinical trials. So it's a little bit difficult that the determinator of COFEPRIS understands how the molecule works and how the molecule works in your body. So it's important to be very specific with these 6 points. Also, because they have to deliver an approval letter of these types of trials. This is crucial for the integration of the dossier. It's very important to include the lethal dose on these studies, either 50% or 90% for toxicology purpose. Then the information on clinical studies, we have also to submit summary toxicology, tabulated summary of toxicology, summary of a clinical studies, summary of a pharmacological studies, summary of clinical efficacy, clinical safety summary, synthesis of individual clinical studies, product overview, list of articles, and risk benefits study combinations. This is because we have to classify very well the phases of the clinical trials that we have already have in existence on the original country of the main clinical trial. You can send us the clinical trials that you have in your country, but it's not going to be safe to COFEPRIS the authorization because we don't know how it works the molecule in Mexican population. So this is why it's important to understand which phase you're going to present, if it is phase 1, 2, or 3. Also, the bibliography of the clinical trials are crucial. Remember, these informations has to be indexed. You cannot put another publications. So the requirements for authorization of extension of medications. First of all, we have to request the format. Remember, you cannot change any type of something in the format because COFEPRIS doesn't approve this. The payment, simple copy of the sanitary register that it has to be valid. Technical report of the interchangeability test, labels in use or arts, instructions and information to prescribe broad and reduce previously authorized. Pharmacovigilance report, GMP certificate, and it has to be punctual, this GMP, for the drug or medication or wherever you're submitting. The document that accredits a legal representative domiciled in Mexico. So regarding the extensions of the registrations, this is a good news because once you reach the 5 years durability, we have to present the following information, but only once. Now with the new government, we don't have to make this extension every 5 years. Now, I want to punctualize this slide because in the text of times, sometimes the enterprise don't follow the next rule. If you have to submit the pharmacovigilance periodic safety report every 5 years, but you have to consider that COFEPRIS is going to take 6 months, and you have to submit this info in the I'm going to, in the authorization of extension, okay? So you have to present this 6 months before, and then remember that for the pharmacovigilance, you have to submit also the security report in Mexico and report over the clinical studies in real time. So then I'm going to go back to the slide before. Because I'm missing one slide, sorry. Well, it's okay. So COFEPRIS guidelines. I want to make before and now, because it's important that COFEPRIS made a lot of changes since we have a new government, and these changes every week. I don't want to scare you, but it's a lot to process in a few moments. So before, labels on products destined to public sector depending on institutions. And now we have to include a legend that it has to say its sale is prohibited or property of the health sector. It's very important because if you don't have this legend, they are going to reject your medicines. Then all documents have to be translated on Spanish language for submission in COFEPRIS. And now they are receiving information in English, but again, an advice, if you don't want to submit all the documents in Spanish, I advise you that the most important documents, or the one that support all the information, has to be in Spanish. This includes legal documents and clinical trials. All biotech products have to be reviewed by the subcommittee for biotechnical products. And now, new molecules committee will review biotech products. There is no special biotech committee. This is a very good notice because before we don't have many people in this subcommittee, so it was a little bit more difficult to submit this type of medicines. Number 4, clinical trials are obligatory on Mexican patients for biotechnical biocomparable medicines. And now, no more clinical trials on Mexican patients for biotechnical biocomparative medicines. Each 5 years, the sanitary registration must have an extension approved by COFEPRIS. Now, the good news is we have to make only this for the first 5 years, then the time is undefined. Variables and times of resolution form COFEPRIS for technical and administrative modifications. COFEPRIS have a 45 days response for technical modifications and 20 days response for administrative modifications. This is because of the new program of DigiPris that they want to make that you can submit information from any part of the world. And from this part, they can review the information more quickly and give you their authorization. GMP is obligatory for registration, extension on medicines and medical devices. So now there is a possibility that the GMP will not be obligatory to be attached on extension for a registration process. So now I want to explain how is the registration process before COFEPRIS. I think this is important because you can analyze where is seeing the information in which part, because there is different sectors that are going to be reaching that something is wrong in the dossier. Sorry for saying that, but is it true? So first of all, we have to prepare the dossier. Then maybe we have to wait 2 to 3 months, depending on the availability of the legal documents and the translation to Spanish. If there is a new molecule, we have to ask for the meeting and then present all the information until this committee of new molecules could attend to these cases. But if this is a product generic or similar molecules, this committee is not in the registration process. We skip until the dossier submission. So this takes 3 to 6 months. There is also a way to accelerate this process. If there is a pathology urgency of Mexican patients, we can ask for an emergency register. Then we have the NMC meeting that nowadays, because of the pandemic, it's made by Zoom. So you present the case, information, and they ask several questions and then made a decision. If with phase 1, 2, or 3, depends on the cases, you reach all the information that they need to authorize this new molecule. Then there is a part in COFEPRIS that you submit the dossier. They review a little bit fast that you have all the points that I have presented to you, and then goes to another part of COFEPRIS that evaluates the quality of the information and that you have presented all the points. And then between 8 to 12 months, that it is the normal time. So the good part is that if we have any international treaty that it is nowadays because of the peaks, we can reduce this time considerably to 6 months. But this with the COVID-19, it's a little bit mess because of the delay. Then the registration approval, remember that we have 2 options. First of all is the prevention. If we don't submit all the information that COFEPRIS needs to know that the medicine is safe and efficacy, they have one chance to ask for another information or something else that provides that the information of the medicine is covered. And then if we don't present this information on time or in form, it's going to be discarded. So you have to start all over again and submit all the documentations, make the payment again. So it's very important that you don't miss this chance and submit all the information that you can in the first phase. So I want to give you the good ideas that what is the advantages between South Korea and Mexico for COFEPRIS. Well, we have Korea is in the Haya Agreement, so it's more easy to present the legal documents because of the apostille. And the specification of requirements to compare with Korea in Mexico is the pharmacopoeia. So we have studies of interchangeability, efficacy, and stability studies. And also Korea is in the PICS program. So we have a lot of documentation that we share, and you can bring your products in Mexico and it's going to be easier than if you go to any country in South America. Okay, then I want to make an important time of this, because sometimes the enterprises think that if you have the authorization, it's that is all that you have to do. But no, remember that you have to importation permits of medicines. So this is the type of permits that you have to do for new medicines, raw material or medicines without narcotic or psychotropics with sanitary registration. We have three modalities, A, B, and C. So you have to see which one is that applies to your product. Remember that this duration of the importation permit is for 15 natural days. So if you don't, you have to make the logistic that the medicine reached Mexico in this window of the 15 business day. But if you get some delay, you can ask with this same permit another 15 days. But that's all. If you end these 15 days, you have to ask again of the importation permits. Then the raw materials or medications that are contain narcotic or psychotropic is a different permit. But this is because COFEPRIS takes extra attention on the narcotics or psychotropics. And then the permits modifications. If you made a typo in the permit, you can change this information with this type of, sorry, with these permit modifications. And now I want to show you what are the costs of the products to authorization in COFEPRIS. This is the actual rate, 2021, and it's in Mexican pesos. So for a similar drug, new molecular drug, and homeopathic herbal and vitamin medicines, these are the cost, the payments that you have to make for COFEPRIS, because this is the rate that they need to pay the determinators and to make all the process since you submit the dossier until you have the authorization. Well, thank you for your attention. I don't know if you have any questions.